Go. Hello.
Hey everybody, I'm HairDocTK and our charity Superhairoes.org and our community forum medicallychallenged.community. We're actually talking about breast implant illness with these videos and how a lot of us have become our own advocates, trying to figure out how we can get to the root issue of all disease in the body. We're doing live testimonials of other breast implant illness ladies who've actually begun their transformation to wellness and utilizing some tools and resources that they have found on groups. And we're going to talk with a brand new superhero, Julie. She's going to introduce herself to you, her name, and what her, Julie, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, good morning. Yep. Hey, I'm Julie. And TK and I met, probably over 10 years ago, based on our passion for health and looking at supplements, looking at products, looking at things to really help the body be optimal. And lo and behold, over these past years, I had implants and started getting really ill. And TK and I have kept up our communication, and it's been a huge blessing because she's just a wealth of information, and I'm just grateful to sit and co-labor in this thing we call health and getting our bodies back to where they should be.
So if you just want to kind of explain, because usually when we do these videos we have about 30 minutes and we want to kind of cover the basic three things. Is how did you find the groups? When you found the groups about breast implant illness, when did you actually start your journey to do the Explant? We talk about this a lot on our prior videos for the ladies. When we're doing Explant, it's called the specific way that we explant via end block, where the physical capsule, the actual implant has to come out. So could you just tell everybody, how long did you have your implants and when was your Explant day? And tell us a little bit about your markers, because we are realizing now that a lot of us, I myself had kidney cancer, lost an organ. Our CRP is very elevated. Our heavy metals are elevated. There's a lot of things that are elevated, but after we explant, a lot of those numbers go down. And that's what we're trying to talk about today, is how after you explanted. So when was your implants, the first surgery? When did you explant? And tell us a little bit about your inflammation and some of those issues that are actually getting a little bit better since you did explant.
Absolutely. So, well, implanted 2010, May, and had my girls were born in 2007, 2008, and I'm petite, so I really wanted something basic, right? So, went and researched, talked to docs, and they said, oh, they've come out with new science. So kind of felt comfortable going through with this surgery. So in May of 2010, I had implants put in. I found myself, so you talked about markers, about 6 months later, I found myself at Mayo Hospital doing a stress test on my heart. I'd been an extreme athlete, marathoner, so to go do something like that, that was, as I look back, my first red flag. Right. We moved, my family moved from Arizona to Seattle, and from that point I had chronic sinus infections, chronic everything, and I kept seeing doctor after doctor. My binder's actually in the other room, and it's about this thick with my medical history. So there's tests such as ANA factors, looking for inflammation. And I pulled a 1-sheet print off of all my visits, and out of them, 80% I came in for chronic pain, chronic inflammation. So something wasn't right, but I thought I moved. I thought it was stress from work. So kind of long story short, we ended up here in Texas with work in 2018, and I had another flare-up. A year earlier, TK and I started talking. She shared her story of losing her kidney and her implants, and I took note, but I didn't really share with her, hey, I've got implants too, because there was some, it's a girl thing. It's this, well, I really don't go around flaunting my boobs, you know. So we just, you know, it's kind of, it's between my, yeah. So I had these weird flare-ups chronically. Every month I'd catch a cold, and then about a week later I'd be on the couch curled up in a ball. By week 3, I was walking into a clinic asking for anti-inflammatories and antibiotics, and that was my cycle. So last year, it was 2018 in the fall, I reached out to TK and she said, you know, they're probably your implants, but do your research. And she was great. She pointed me to some Facebook groups. And by that time I was ready. Okay. So there's a psychological piece with this, right. But I was ready, did my research. Then I started researching doctors, and my husband and I agreed, hey, what's there to lose if I get these out? Right. And I did a heavy metal test. I had my hair tested, and my levels were off the charts. I had a rheumatologist who kind of went, wait, what? So I'm ready to, so I ended up, that was last Christmas. So coming up this March is when I explanted, and I explanted based on the information and the research with a full end block, which means that scar tissue around it had to come out too, because that had the toxins in it. And wow, right after I had my surgery, so I basically had about 20 symptoms walking into surgery. Walked out, my left ear vertigo gone, my right ear chronic pain and noise gone. This pinky I can now bend. I couldn't bend it. Like, I can't tell you, the list goes on. My skin, I have people, I'll be 49 here in the spring. Everyone's like, you look great. And there's a huge list, you know, like we could talk for hours, but this is part of TK and I getting together, is to say, hey, look, the first step in my healing was what I call get them out. It's like, you know, I feel like we're on a reality TV show where we have to move, you know, here's the before, and we move the sign and show, you know, here's the after. And so, yeah, so within weeks of explanting in March of 2019, felt amazing. And I'm so grateful that there's a community of ladies that are really being heroes today and advocates for each other.
So let me backtrack for a little bit for the ladies, and then I'm going to get up for a minute and show everybody something. I want to reiterate this over and over again. I am actually going to be 52 in May. I lost my kidney 6 years ago. I was given talk about this transformation to wellness. We're going to get into it a lot deeper, because after explanting, there's still something else people need to do that they aren't aware of, right? Power of the mind. We talk about this a lot, because we can do a million things. We can be completely healthy. We can live a healthy lifestyle. We can eat the right food. We can grow our own plants and soils. But if our mind isn't coherent with the rest of our values, we're still not going to be optimal transformation. I still had implants, and that's what I tell people. So I lost my kidney and a couple other things, okay? But this poor little guy was responsible for doing like 20 things, filtering out a lot of that co-infection, mycoplasma, biofilm that we talk about. So this guy had to do constant trying to push things out. And that's why I go, after the kidney cancer, still not feeling right. I'm cancer free for a minute. And it's going to happen when the cancer comes back. And they're like, oh, you have 10% chance, and this is 5% chance. I'm like, okay. So long story short, the implants, when we talk about this, it's not specifically say, hey, the implants gave me cancer, or this is giving you, it's actually the adjuvant that's in the capsule. So hold on one second. I'm going to get them because I've saved them, and I want to show you guys because of, so just to let everybody know, because I've said this over and over and over again, and there's so many new videos coming out, and it's like wrong information. I have another colleague, we call it web baloney, because it's just, it's not scientific facts, which is what we're about. These were my actual third set. So these here, these are the capsules, these are actually the implants. So when we say breast implant cause all these issues, it's not exactly the breast implant, it's the adjuvant. So what happens is inside here, whether it's saline leaks into your organs, leaks into your kidney, leaks into your bloodstream. Saline actually can start to form fungus, bacteria, mold, and increase those parasites. So when we talk a little bit about Lyme, co-infections, Epstein-Barr, which we'll talk about later, those parasites maybe already were in your body along with maybe the cancer gene, because we all have them. But when we add more adjuvants, which would be this, that's tapping those organs. So it's tapping your kidney, your hair, your eyes, your skin, your pinky. So when Julie's saying her pinkies were inflamed, yes, it's because the adjuvant is continually going through our bloodstream. When they remove these, they're also going to go in there and remove some tissue and some other capsules. So specifically, most of us ladies, so me being 52 from 1980 when I had my first set, I have 3 sets of implants. Lo and behold, these are probably 2 of the other sets that are stuck in here, along with scar tissue and some of the tissue that was adhering into the rib cage. These are the only ones that came out intact. So I just wanted to reiterate that after removing these via en bloc, we now have to rebuild that foundation, and that's what I'm going to ask you now, Julie. In order to get to transformation of wellness, we're removing root issues, right? So we remove one issue, which is our adjuvant silicone, which is causing infection. Then we have to go, okay, we have to do 3 things. We have to rebuild our house. We have to work on our immune system, right? Because that's going to fight those infections and start pushing stuff. We have to build our gut health, which is second brain. We talk about that with our gut, right? And we have to focus on our mind. A lot of people have asked me about detox. I want to scream, because detox is daily living with how you're eating and supplementing, right?
Exactly.
Everyone wants to detox. I'm like, you will be detoxing when you learn to eat specifically. However your body is designed, I'm macrobiotic now. So my whole thing, since losing this, moderation is key, right? But like I said, building that house, we have to get that gut balanced, get that immune functioning, and get our metabolic system where we're replacing those mitochondria at the cellular level.
Yes.
So with that being said, I know, Julie, you're an advocate also for health and gut and immune and function. After your explant, tell the ladies what you actually started to implement so you could start feeling better. And I know you actually are getting treated for Lyme disease. So when I talk to people about this, it's another thing we can't talk about a lot because we're being watched a lot on media. So Lyme disease now specifically is not just from being bit by a tick, and we'll cover that later. But a lot of us will form Lyme and Epstein-Barr because, as I said, those co-infections are feeding on implants. They also feed on sugar, they feed on coffee, they feed on dairy, and they feed on meat. So getting back to your story, Julie, after you explanted, to talk a little bit about the Lyme and your protocol, not protocol, but what you're supplementing to help to get through that. Because the big protocols for Lyme is using a lot of antibiotics, which are kind of against that. Julie and I actually do a lot of this stuff back here, like I said, and this is what we talk about. And if you guys see right there, the aloe is the #1 thing: collagen synthesis, hair, skin, nails. It's got allodophilus, it's got your calcium, your minerals. It's got, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So after I felt great after explant, but like you shared, I just wasn't right. Being an extreme athlete, things just weren't perfect. So friend of a friend said, hey, I found this doc in Houston. That's where I live now. And there's, went and said, okay, here's my symptoms. Here's what I did. And this doctor was amazing. She knew here in Texas at MD Anderson, she knows Dr. Crimson that does a lot of ladies that have the breast implant cancers. So she looked at me and said, oh, typically with the implants, there's things called co-infections. So we need to get your body healthy. And so she asked me about my diet. So as TK shared, there's these kind of cornerstone things you got to do. Okay, explant 1. Second thing was your diet. And today I just watched another video. I'm so hungry for this. And down to that cell mitochondria level, getting out, the salts and getting potassium in, and the way that our body was designed to filter this out. So she said, how's diet? So I used to be a vegetarian. I went back. I'm like, okay, let's do this. And it's baby steps. Right now I have the crock pot cooking, and it's got, you know, tomatoes and veggies and beans. I'm going to make just a basic chili.
Right.
And I'm learning. So diet was one thing. Then she's a Lyme literate doctor. So that means that she's really done her homework. And when you walk in her office, she's certified in everything. So
Right.
she knew to say, okay, let's look at your inflammation markers. And she had specific tests and the molds to look at. And wow, I came back thinking, where in the heck, you know, but I'm from the Midwest, you know, where'd the Lyme come from? Where did the molds come from? But she said,
Right.
typically with the implants are these co-infections. And she is the first doctor I've met that said, you know, and I shared with her, another doctor told me just to be happy. And I said, I'd be happy if I was out riding my bike every day, hiking mountains with my kids, but my
Right.
body won't allow me to do this. So, so she's taking me on a regimen of every 8 weeks through certain stuff. And what I love is she asked me about my supplements. And this is what TK shared is we looked at some products and some things years ago and
Right.
compared them. And just yesterday, I had a gal reach out via Facebook Messenger and want to sell me her product. And I looked at it and I said, I know that product. It's caffeine and sugar.
Right.
And my body, if I'm going to get down to that root cell, okay, ladies, this is where I tell you, like TK told me, go do your homework. And I've done my homework and I'm still learning. If I'm going to, there's good sugars from natural plants, and then there's junk in these products, like it's sawdust. And I sat there and I was like, this lady has gone through an explant. And I was like, sweetie, you've got to find a company that has quality. And when we talk quality, it's really from farm to table, and you know it's true because there's a lot of hype out there. There's a lot of talk. The webaloney, right? That's like baloney on the web. And so for me, I said, okay, let's get that gut healthy, because if my stomach's not taking in the nutrients to get to the cells, to that mitochondria to do the work, then I'm going to have a lot more days in bed, right?
So let me also say this, because as the group admin, you know, for a lot of you ladies, I have a charity. I own a business. I do a lot of hair restoration. People have asked me crazy questions before. They're like, yeah, cancer or hair. I'm going to say this once. There's stuff everywhere that will mutate cancer cells. Does this give you cancer? Does this give you cancer? Like, thinking in your brain can give you cancer. It can mutate the cells. So what I'm saying is, specifically I want to address this because I have a lot of women coming to me and saying, I can't do what you do, TK. I can't be committed to that. I actually had to have a near-death experience. First of all, change the way I was eating, right? Then I had to have another experience last year, because I don't tell a lot of people this. I basically was homeless for a year with no car, and I had no income because of the web hacks. So my websites were shut down in May because I've been activating in Arizona to save my license. That's a whole nother advocacy. But what I'm saying, anybody can do anything with living wherever they are by changing one thing today to make a difference. And I'm trying to explain, when Julie had the Explant, because her and I talked about this, remember when you text me and we were talking about food? I'm trying to get back to that conversation. And I said, Julie, after you explant, you can't kind of go back down the rabbit hole. We have to get on the same system. We have to make sure that we're eating the same foods every day. Because let's just say 6 days you're macrobiotic and you're eating your celery and your black walnuts and you're taking your vitamin D and you're doing your aloe and you do everything. And then for 4 days you're going to binge and you're drinking wine and you're doing that. That actually resets our metabolic system back almost 6 months. So do you remember when were you in Italy or something, or talking about the wine? I'm trying to talk about that because you're very focused on your diet. I'm extremely macrobiotic. because I talk a lot about the meat, because of the antibiotics we're talking about, that's what mutates the cancer genes, right? And when you think about this on a global scale with the whole world we're talking about, 80% of our resources and water is going to these animals, and they're basically the middleman. So if we can get back to our roots, where we're going like this, fruits, shoots, seeds, nuts. In my TED Talk, I talk about this because my mom is a conservative Christian from Amish country. They're in their 80s. There's no cancer in their bodies because of the way they eat, but it's also the way they think.
Yeah.
So when you went on your binge, Julie, can you explain to the ladies what happened? Because we were talking about this and you kind of were cheating a little bit, and I said you can't because then it messed up stuff up. Do you remember that conversation?
Right. Well, and I think, yeah, so we typically go to Italy a couple years on a mission, a couple times a year on a mission trip. And I come back feeling great because the food is all home cooked. Even the wine over there, I don't feel sick. I don't feel anything. Right. It's like drinking juice. And thinking, okay, I come back to America, and like TK said, all of a sudden I'm feeling like yucky again, and what's going on, and I have one of these flare-ups. My body just it can't have a day off, but it's mentally hard because it kind of, this is the way we, like this morning putting lunches together for my kids. We are just go to the grocery store, you'll see it, as you walk out, and you got to shop the outside of the grocery store. But what TK really honed in on was you've got to stay true to the diet. And for me, I think I felt overwhelmed by a lot of this. But what I can tell you is get good people in your corner. Like I track everything in my calendar. I track good days, bad days, days I got to the gym. I look at it. I keep this my medical binder when I go to the doctor, because they're so busy, right? They're busy. I go in and I say, here's my labs. Here's the labs from last time. What are we looking at? Because they have to sit there and study your labs. They don't have 5 minutes to look at your labs. So there's so many little pieces that through, I know TK is just going to build on with her website, lots of little steps, but, Explant, then my diet, right? That was just, it's key. And I'm grateful. I'm sitting here today looking up recipes. And this morning I had like this headache and this brain fog, and I'm like, okay, what do I need? And that's the key, is to go, okay, what I don't need to Advil, right? I don't need.
Let me interrupt for a second. Let me interrupt for a second, because I have a lot of ladies that text me about this food causes this, or colloidal silver is going to stay in my brain, or I heard this is causing heart problems. I'm going to just say this again because I'm the group leader. I'm 52 soon. I have a TED Talk and a book. I've specifically made the group so we don't have to go down the rabbit hole, because unfortunately now, as Julie just said, Italy and where my parents live, which is Amish country, is not Phoenix, is not Seattle, is not Portland. I'm just saying, there's so much stuff that's been in our water and that's everywhere that we really have to be like this honed. And I'm not trying to push one thing, because each body, yes, we were different blood type, and I get all that, but we have already utilized, I've already researched, and I have all the resources for everybody. So when people ask questions about what can I eat, on our website now, Medically Challenged Community, there is specifically recommended links, not to Amazon, to the websites, where personally I can say I guarantee these companies, if that makes sense, because my kombucha in Phoenix now isn't the same kombucha in Seattle, Washington, because of the way the soil was raised. So all I'm trying to explain through these videos that we're doing, and I appreciate your time today, is that we've already researched this. So I don't want ladies going down the rabbit hole with trying to be crazy, because everything has to be in moderation and very structured. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. And that's where, knowing TK's story and watching how she's out riding her bike, people. Like, that's what caught my attention. I went
50 miles a day.
I'm like, right? Wait.
50 miles on a mountain bike with a knee replacement, shoulder scope. I have severe osteoporosis. I just don't complain about it. Kidney missing. And I was homeless for a year and didn't even have a car. But I got on my bicycle every day. Why? Because I tell people, after we explant and we change our diet and we work on the gut, the immune, our metabolic function, our minds, and I'm going to say this to everybody because everybody assumes things about every single person they see, right? We got to stop that. It's all changing the mind. Sorry to interrupt. Go back to what you're saying.
That's so true. That's the key. And so it's overwhelming. And so TK's really pioneered because she's lived this. You know, there's a couple people out there, you know, that we follow, that we get instruction from because they have institutes now, right?
Right.
And so we can glean a lot of that information. And I think the key is for me to go, this, you know, I didn't ask for this to happen to me. TK didn't ask for this to happen. But the beauty in it is that our purpose that has really come upon us is she gets to help you guys pioneer through this. You have someone that's walked before you. I've walked before you. And it's, to me, that's a blessing that I can't refuse. I know. I love you.
So at the end of this video, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, whoever you are, as I said, these groups and everything we do isn't to impress anyone. I'm not trying to be smarter than anybody. And actually, I have no degrees, zero. I don't have degrees. I have a wellness practitioner consulting certification. I was actually going to become a wellness practitioner, decided not to because of all the weird lawsuits that are happening when we try and save people. I've been doing hair for 35 plus years. Everything in my business is around hair restoration, hair health. I've been an adamant spin cycle instructor. My whole life has been about health and wellness. Like I said, at the end of the day, there are three major things that we're talking about. And yes, breast implants, it is real. We're also going to throw this in there, bleeding edge. It's a Netflix clip. I'm on that because it's actually considered a medical device. So now we're going a little bit past the implants because the implants have silicone adjuvant, right? We also now are talking about pacemakers, IUDs, hearing aids, stents, all of these medical devices that are implanted. Some of them are very necessary to prolong the physical body to live. Does that make sense? So if someone's physical body, like my dad, needs a knee replacement at 80, they're going to do that. We, with the groups, are trying to prevent having that knee replacement because I did that too. I had a partial knee replacement in 2003 when I was doing stent work. I had that removed because if you watched Bleeding Edge, I had an allergic reaction to a cobalt knee replacement. So I had that stuff taken out and it's kind of held in there together with whatever they do back in the day, chicken something. There's no mesh, there's nothing in there. But because of the things that I've implemented and the products and the way I work out, I've maintained that knee. My patella has maintained for a long time to not have the knee replaced. So the whole part of these stories and the groups is to get to the root issue of disease so all of us can transform our wellness and have quality of life. That's what we're talking about. Again, we're going to pan around one more time. Implants. Now remember, yes, some of us have 3 sets. Some of us may have 4. I have no idea how many times you've had implants. Usually they have to be replaced after 7. These have to come out, the whole thing. You will also get your tissue, any other type of stuff that's been left inside of your rib cage on your cell wall. Once we remove the explant, we work on rebuilding our house, which is our gut, number 1. And Julie and I both have the things that will help your gut function. Number 2, immune. We got to keep that immune to fight off all of the adjuvants. And when you take these out, you're still going to have heavy metals. You're still going to have parasites. Crap, you can get a parasite from going to the restaurant, by the way. It's not to freak you out because I've had Epstein's bar for 35 years. You can get that from eating at a restaurant. So once we get rid of these, we got to make sure all those other foundations are solid so they can fight that arming. And then third and lastly, because we really didn't talk about this earlier, because sometimes I go on a tangent, is the power of our mind, which I personally am doing. And I told the ladies on group since October, I've been in brain therapy training with a colleague, Bruce Lipton. He's a really good colleague of mine. Used to be in the medical profession. Now he's a little bit more science, spiritual, brain change. And Joe Dispenza, who's another friend. It's all about changing our thoughts, our behaviors, our emotions. Because once I removed my cancerous kidney and I removed the silicone adjuvant disease implants and I keep the Epstein's barn Lyme dormant, I'm still up here not right. So that's the last thing that we're going to work on. Do you want to say anything to the ladies, Judy? Julie. Judy's my aunt, by the way, who helped me get into hair school. That's why. I want to give them, and, you know, we don't really talk a lot about religions or politics on video, but you have a very strong foundation with your beliefs, and that's helping your mental healing, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So, you know, within my research is, you know, they talk about the brain, the limbic system, and that's really what we're rebuilding. And I'm reading right now, Dr. Leaf, her book, and she's, you know, ties it back into biblical foundation. But again, it's taking, you know, within your dendrites in your brain, they can really form these negatives and really learning how to make them positive again. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of people, you know, that talk about it's a discipline, but a discipline, what I think of is a practice, right? So how do you get better at a sport, right? How do you get better at tennis? You go wax more tennis balls. How do you get better at golf? You go wax more golf balls. How do you get better at practicing making your brain more positive? You practice. So for me, that's, you know, the phase that I'm in right now is still healing the gut and the body, but working on that mind. And just reach out to us, to TK, you know, if you have questions, we're here for you.
So everybody, we want to say today, if you can do one thing when you wake up tomorrow, and I tell everybody this because nobody is like me or my father. My dad is probably the most second tenacious person I ever met who's had his leg amputated and his foot and still keeps going. I mean, this guy is amazing. And that's what I talk about in my TED Talk. My dad is my superhero because he's been so tenacious and the way I was raised with their beliefs, right? So the whole point of these videos for Julie and I and everybody that's going to come on board to share the story is just find your group, stay consistent. In order to make any changes at all, it takes 30 days to change one behavior. I know, because I've been doing that since October. And I tell everybody, media, yes, media can help us because we're helping you right now, but the whole consumption of all the groups and being in here and all sharing our stories, if we keep remaining in the victim mode, right, we're going to stay sick. That's why the charity, turn the word victim into the word hero. Become your own superhero by getting to the root issue of disease. Thank you. Love you, Julie.
All right. Love you too.
We'll be recapping soon. Everybody,
all right.
Come visit us on medicallychallenged.community, and we'll put links for our groups and all of that. And remember, guys, tomorrow, do one thing that is going to change and help your future and repair your quality of life. Love you.